My name is Carrie Keck, and I'm candidate for State House District 26, which encompasses the cities of Shawnee, Bethel, Dale, and Johnson. I currently live in Shawnee, and I grew up here and graduated from Dale, Dale Pirates. I'm a Dale Pirate. And then I went to OSU OKC for a year and decided that I just felt a calling and a duty to serve our country. And my father and grandfather had both served in the Army, and my brother enlisted in the Marine Corps, but I decided to enlist in the Army. So I served see, I was a signals intelligence analyst initially when I enlisted, and then in 2007, I commissioned as a military intelligence officer, and I retired in 2021 after 23 years of active duty service as an engineer officer and a major. So I really enjoyed my time in the military, and now I just came back to the community of Shawnee, came back home to Shawnee, and really want to serve this community in as our state representative. It
Uh,
is, Tinker is a significant part of our state and obviously a huge employer in that area, but I am not actively working with the military. I'm still, I'm sure, able to be, even though I'm retired, if anything were to occur, I could possibly be called back to duty. But and right now I'm just focused on running for office and working hard every day to make it happen. Well, we've knocked on over 9,000 doors since January 1st, and I've had thousands of conversations with thousands of people in our community. And the majority of people in our community agree that education is such a huge issue because of the fact that it impacts our kids. We want to invest in our kids, and that means ensuring that they're getting a quality education. We're 49th in education. Our state is 49th in education, and we need to find ways to ensure. And we've had over 6,000 teachers leave the classroom in 2023 alone. So we have to find ways to invest in our schools to ensure that our kids are getting the meals that they need while they're in school and having counselors available, as well as ensuring our teachers and support staff are being paid properly. So that is one of the biggest concerns in our community. And then, we also have one of the highest rates of homelessness in the state. 3 out of 1,000 people in Shawnee are homeless. So there are obviously multiple reasons for that, and especially the lack of affordable housing, which I know that's an issue across the state and across the nation. And thirdly, I guess one of the biggest things is just that have a shortage of jobs that pay well and provide benefits for their employees. So and costs really. So jobs that pay well and the rising costs that we have across Oklahoma and across the nation. Well, Mr. Krebs has been in office for 8 years, and to be honest, our community just hasn't seen a whole lot of positive change and resources brought into our community. After 8 years, you generally would have some influence to be able to get things done in your community. And we have a 20% poverty rate here in our area, and have a lack of affordable housing again, and a lack of just good paying jobs. So the the biggest issue the biggest legislation that he's focused on the last couple of years has been Service Oklahoma, which really, it did provide kind of a means for people to be able to have access to getting driver's licenses and things like that and processing, but it also increased the cost for tag agencies to stay in business. So that did affect some of our smaller tag agencies. So I guess that is my assessment, that he's been in office for 8 years, and we just haven't seen a whole lot of positive results from his leadership. He's a good person. He's a nice man. I've spoken to him on multiple occasions. But I think it's time, after 8 years, I think it's time to have new leadership. So the biggest issues, some of the biggest issues for people in Pottawatomie County and across Oklahoma that are in the agricultural industry are having the rising cost of land and taxation on property. the difficulty in being able to pass their land on to their children without paying exorbitant taxes, and allowing their kids to be able to continue the tradition of farming and ranching in our communities. And same kind of infrastructure challenges that we all face. Farmers and people in the ag industry need access to broadband because they have a business and they need to be able to utilize the broadband internet to be able to do things effectively and efficiently for their business. And so ensuring that we continue to increase broadband infrastructure across the state and continue to fund that program, as well as finding ways to allow farmers and ranchers to be able to pass their land and their business onto their kids and minimize the tax burden that creates. And really, too, ensuring that, we used to have a lot of small farms and family-owned farms, and now we have a lot more industrial farming that occurs in our state. And there are some issues that are created by that, to include, jobs that don't really pay well and often aren't safe. And so, trying to get a handle on that and incentivizing family-owned farms again, which would be beneficial to our economy and provide more local sources of food. Sure. That's a good question, and it's important for people in my district to understand. So, our current representative is the chairman of the Ag Committee, and that's the only committee that he actually chairs, but he is on multiple committees, to include the Appropriations Committee or Appropriations Subcommittee. So just as any new representative or any new representation for a district, I have to find, I would have to find my niche in the state legislature. But as a person who's served in the military for 23 years and was in charge of organizations as small as 15 and as large as 500, I have a lot of knowledge and skills that I could bring to the table, and will work across the aisle to find committees that would allow me to still provide a lot of benefit to the residents of my community. And I'll fight for the people in my community, regardless of what committee that I end up being on. So Oklahoma is the third in the nation for rates of mental illness, and we're second for substance use disorders. We have just a very limited access to mental health resources in our community, as well as drug treatment resources. I think, increasing funding for those issues specifically, which was supposed to be a result of the state question that we passed a couple of years ago. Those savings were supposed to be utilized to increase mental health resources and access to mental health resources across communities in the state. So last year was the first year that the legislature actually utilized those fundings, the savings, and provided those to substance abuse and mental health in Oklahoma. And that was, I can't remember specifically how much that was, but we just need to continue that and provide the resources to communities that they need. We also, as far as working on solutions for homelessness, affordable housing is a huge issue across the state. I know the legislature recently passed some legislation and provided some funding for trying to create affordable homes, incentivizing builders to create affordable homes. And we just need to continue to do that as well, and identify gaps in services that will allow organizations to work together. In Shawnee, we really have a great base of nonprofits and religious institutions that are working to address the issue, but ensuring that there's coordinated effort within those communities and with the city of Shawnee to address the housing issue and the lack of mental health and drug treatment. I think it's just really important, both working with the city and the state and local organizations to address those issues, and ensuring that the funding is there and is provided, the resources are provided by the state, and we're taking advantage of federal grants as well. The majority of people in my community and across the state are their kids are educated in public schools. And in back in, you know, 2000, around the 2011 timeframe, we were ranked as 17th in the nation for public schools. And fast forward to 2024, and we're ranked 49th. So I think it is imperatively important that we support our public schools because the majority of kids are educated in public schools. I understand school choice, and parents should have the choice and do have the choice to send their kid to a private school or to homeschool their children. But I don't think that public tax dollars should be utilized to fund the a parent sending their kid to private schools, and primarily because that affects people in our rural areas. And here in my community, we only have two private schools. And people outside of Shawnee just don't have access to those private schools. They can't, it's difficult for them to drive their kids to the school, and after school activities are limited, and extracurricular activities are limited in those private schools. And the tuition is still just unaffordable. A lot of private schools increase their tuition to make up for the tax credit that those parents were being provided by other taxpayer dollars, or other taxpayers. Our money was being provided to those parents to send their kids to private schools. So Arizona tried to do this on a massive scale and to allow anybody to utilize their vouchers, private school vouchers, and it has really caused a decrease in other services for their state because of the cost of providing private school tuition. So I think we should be investing in our public schools and ensuring that they are funded, they're safe, and they have resources available for teachers and parents to be able to ensure that all of our kids are getting a good quality education. Well, the best way to attract businesses and commerce to our area is to invest in our community and to invest in our infrastructure. And that includes, and that is also at our state level. We have a surplus of funds. So why aren't we reinvesting those funds into our communities and providing, we have a challenge with infrastructure in communities across Oklahoma, and providing resources to allow communities to reinvest into their infrastructure. It's been a while since we have been able to do that. And so we've seen, a lot of negative impact come from not investing and not maintaining our infrastructure properly. In Shawnee, we recently had to build a new water plant and refurbish our old water plant. And it just increased the cost exorbitantly because we weren't able to do that properly in the past. So when we invest in our infrastructure, when we invest in our schools and our communities and provide things like parks and activities for kids to do and activities for senior citizens, and just provide that community that's supportive of each other and is attractive for people to want to be in, and for businesses to want to bring their manufacturing and business to our community. I think that's the best way to attract businesses and manufacturing into our communities, to ensure that we have communities that are vibrant and are appealing to those organizations.